Hey guys, so I wanted to talk about something real quick, something important before you guys can go and get to the review, which you guys have been really excited for, and I've been upping up for months. So, I wanted to go ahead and talk about fair use and why I follow fair use in this review. You guys may remember that when I reviewed the first movie, I got copyright claimed multiple times, and trying to deal with it through YouTube's site ended up cutting out everything in regards to the first movie, and only leaving like 5 minutes of footage that's all just my face. I will not accept that anymore. So if I do somehow get claimed and the video is still up, I'm going to appeal it, and I'm going to fight for it to stay up. But because I've worked for months on end to get this review up, and I've been going through multiple nights without with barely enough sleep to be able to see this review go down and everything. I'm tired of it. So I wanted to go ahead and name out all the reasons why I follow fair use in this review. So the first one's obvious. It's that it's a review. It's not supposed to be a distribution of the entire movie, and it's not meant to be me just talking over the entire movie. It's me going over specific points and reviewing why I think it's either good or bad. And it's supposed to be legit criticism that I'm supposed to be giving. The second one is that the clips that I use in the video are less than 10 seconds long. The longest clip that I saw was about 7 to 8 seconds. As far as looking at any of the other clips that I've seen, because remember, I had to edit this thing. So obviously I know how long my clips are. I even use still images while using voice mechanisms for specific things because of the fact that I didn't want to get copyright claimed. I use still pictures while keeping the audio for a specific scene in there. The third thing is that I use pictures throughout the entire review. Like I put them on like a screen, like up here or something. And I always do that. And I put in specific audio, like stock footage of like drumming and stuff like that. The fourth thing is that with the music I use in the thing, the perfect for me that I use in the explanation of perfect for me is a instrumental. I looked everywhere in regards to if a perfect for me instrumental got claimed, and none of them have. So and Justin isn't singing. It's me talking over the perfect for me rhythm and theme and everything, like the whole instrumentals. And number 5, I also use Stardew Valley, a dance of the Moonlight Jellies, but I used an OST recording. I used an OST recording and repeated it. So that's another reason. OST technically don't count as a claim, by the way, because of the fact that they're OST, as in original content. The other thing is that I use my OC for, like, both my OCs, Lilac, the troll, and Lavender, I'm going to say Pegasus, throughout the entire video. And I use my OC a lot in regards to emoting expressions and everything. And obviously, I don't focus on the entire reasons, I don't focus on the entire plot in regards to the movie. I skip a few things and I use heavily edited stuff. Like all my clips, if they're not heavily edited, they are short and are meant to just give you guys lines to be able to understand the point of the review that I'm trying to get across. And I know that I tried to do the first movie the same way that the Mysterious Mr. Enter did, and it failed multiple times. But literally, all that was claimed in that review was one measly clip, and that clip was the confession with the whole Branch's confession with the poetry thing, and that was it. Other than that, everything was completely fine by me. But I want to tell DreamWorks this specifically. I am following fair use orders. I am following like the guidelines to not get claimed, like every single possible guideline that every reviewer has said. I'm also giving out a positive review of a movie, obviously, because because as you guys can already tell, I really love this movie. I'm wearing the shirt right now. I'm just tired of the copyright claim stuff, and I really worked passionately on this review, and I want as many people as possible to see it. I want people to realize my point of view, and I want people to have a new way of seeing the movie. That was my entire point with this review, and going as far in depth with it as possible, going as far as to have like 108 pages of script for it. So yeah, so here, that's all the reasons why I'm technically following fair use guidelines. OC, started OST music, instrumental music that didn't get claimed, using still pictures while keeping the audio, using pictures the entire video, and clips that don't go beyond 10 seconds, that never have went beyond 10 seconds. So I'm just saying. Anyway, I'm glad you guys heard out my fair use, and I know you guys really want to get to the review. So I'm going to go ahead and be a bit quiet now, and I will talk to you guys in the chat, and let's get on with the review.
Considering that Trolls World Tour has made history, and I've reviewed it twice, I think it makes sense to talk about the impact as well as really criticize Trolls World Tour. It's the 2020 sequel to the original that I found to be pretty good with its own faults. With the film being mostly released on VOD, it felt like this film wasn't going to make it if there wasn't enough support for it. Fortunately, it made bank, and became the best-selling rental movie within the weekend. Kids seemed to enjoy this film the same way they enjoyed the last one, and it seemed like adults were getting into it as well. I have no idea if they're going to do a Trolls 3. I personally think that they are. I've made my feelings about Trolls World Tour very clear in the past. However, with multiple watches, I've come to grow a new understanding with this film. However, we're going to discuss some ground rules. We are criticizing songs. However, it will not go into what I ultimately think of the movie. Dynamics that change the continuity of the movie series also won't go into what I ultimately think of the movie. Everything else will be criticized. Anyway, let's get started. Let's grab our instruments and get on the bus. This is Trolls World Tour.
Once upon a time, there were two trolls.
We start the film off with what I predicted in my theory. Cloud Guy, played by Walt Dorn, narrating the beginning segue. Yay! 1 point for my theory! He basically narrates a shortened version of everything that happened in the first movie, while showing a cute freaking dog, man. I want to squeeze its cute little cheeks. He tells us that there are more troll kingdoms, and then we switch to the Techno Trolls area. Yeah, that's really all we need. It's perfect enough information to catch up to the events of what happened in the first movie, and sets up our premise quite nicely. The Techno Trolls are throwing a party with their leader, King Trollex, played by Anthony Ramos, with some amazingly beautiful looking animation, until Queen Barb, played by Rachel Bloom, interrupts and asks Trollex for the Techno Trolls string. The Rock Trolls destroy the environment and take the Techno string off screen. Then we get our very awesome title card.
Who's ready to rock?
We then see Poppy, played again by Anna Kendrick, getting ready for her day as queen. We also see Branch, played again by Justin Timberlake, in his bed, getting ready to tell Poppy he loves her. During this sequence, we get our first big musical number, Trolls Just Wanna Have Good Times. This song is nice and energetic. Personally though, I think this intro song is much better than the first movie's intro song. Why do I think that? The first movie's intro song was exciting and built up a lot too. However, it only built up the party, and built up what we already knew about Poppy, and the rest of the snack pack. This builds up the changes in the characters since the events of the first movie, foreshadows the relationship between Poppy and Branch, foreshadows the moral Poppy will have to learn in the movie, and gets everyone excited for the adventure, while also easing everyone in with the song. Not only that, but in the first movie, Branch wasn't introduced until the intro song was finished. Here, he's a part of the intro song, which means he fits into the crowd a lot more, and he's given more development. Also, can we admire the smaller details that not a lot of people tend to notice on the first watch, like hand size difference? After the song is over, Poppy commends everyone for their performance. Branch tries to tell Poppy, but he's nervous, as everyone would be when asking out their crush.
For some reason we can't seem to make a good connection.
Yowza, that hurt. The moment is interrupted by Biggie, played again by James Corden, running away from whatever that is. Its name is Debbie. Of course, the run is filmed in a GoPro shot. Poppy catches it, and Branch subdues it. She opens the invitation and reads a message from the Rock Trolls talking about their world tour, Roll credits! Peppy, played expertly by Walt Dorn this time, takes the paper.
It means nothing at all. It's just junk mail. Forget what you saw.
How we all were during quarantine. Definitely how we all were during quarantine. Branch subdues Peppy, and he explains that there are other types of trolls.
Some of them can't even begin to grasp the concept of hammer time.
Alright, that's pretty funny. Peppy takes him to the waterfall and gives us the backstory. Long ago, there was silence, until a sound was made. The ancestors were inspired by the sound and created the 6 strings for each type of music and everything in between. However, the other trolls became intolerant of each other's music and fought over it. The elders decided to take a string and go their separate ways. Peppy shows them the pop string and the harp. Perfect clue to a twist we'll get to later. He shows them its power and says they need to keep it hidden. Poppy makes a pretty good point about the whole ordeal when she says this.
You're assuming the worst about someone you haven't even met.
Cooper has really good subtle facial expressions. Amazing job, World Tour.
I'm your father.
And I'm the queen.
And I'm the critic, and I say both of you shut up. Nighttime arrives, and Poppy makes a plan to leave.
Branch, look around Troll Village. Everybody's different. Even us.
Oh my god, the movie is self-aware. I'll let you know what I mean in a little bit. Also, Poppy has the best facial expressions I've ever seen in this scene. I must say, Poppy, tonight looks good on you. Branch is swayed and comes with Poppy.
Oh, thank you. I really didn't want to go by myself.
Neither did the audience. We see Cooper, played again by Ron Funches. I know it's a bit late to announce that, just roll with it. And the scene is awesome. Here, there is no dialogue or subtitles. Just Cooper's amazing, emotional facial expressions. And the music. They got much better at subtlety. Yay! Also, very nice touch with the leaf. Barb and the rock trolls emerge from the water and sing Crazy Train. Is it just me, or are they very subtly showing us that each type of music can blend with each other and make a certain song better? Listen to the bass on Crazy Train, and then listen for the classical instruments. Things like that deserve to be mentioned. She goes back in, and we clearly see that she has a lot of affection for the other rock trolls. I'm meaning that she has a great influence over them. She even goes to riff, played by Karen Sony, before putting the techno string inside the guitar. What's odd is that the first trailer made it clear that Trollex gave up the string to protect his people and himself. But that was cut for some reason, which sucks, because we never get to see how Barb got the string. King Thrash, played by Ozzy Osbourne, comes out, and Barb explains the plan, which we already knew. Thank you, congratulations. We cut to our star-crossed lovers, it's best to call them that, don't ignore it, where Branch is getting a comprehensive manual to fly the balloon, and Poppy throws it overboard. It's not like we needed that anyway. We need it later for plot purposes. Can we all take a minute and admire the fact that Branch actually has sounds that he makes in fear, confusion, and laughter?
Comprehensive manual. How hard can it be?
Again, subtlety like this deserves to be mentioned. Poppy presses a button and the balloon goes all around. They stop and hear snoring. They remove the cotton candy to find Biggie. A few gags ensue, and he joins the club. I wish I could call Poppy and Branch Popifer and Branchifer for the rest of this video because the nicknames are adorable, but that would be too much.
That's just my man stuff.
I love man stuff.
Oh, I see what you guys did there. Poppy notices it's a basket of weapons, even though we never saw Branch carry a thing of weapons with him, unless they stop somewhere. After that argument-ish, Poppy and Branch give a glance, and it's amazing. No dialogue, no music, no Biggie to interrupt, nothing. It's just Poppy and Branch staring for about a few seconds, communicating only through facial expressions, and having no sound in the background except for the wind. That's amazing. As they make it to the classical trolls area, they notice the destruction. They search through the wreckage and find a flute named Pennywhistle, played by Charlene Yee, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, who tells them about Symphonyville until Barb attacked. Before we move on, let me just say, Pennywhistle's look reminds me of the Lego Movie 2's look for the sisters' toys in the character's world. And Trollzart, clever name. I wonder if his full name is Wolfgang Amadeus Trollzart. That would be hilarious.
We will not go quietly.
I love that so much. It's insanely hilarious. Also, when Barb fake sleeps, she says me, 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 me. Just to let you all know, me is a syllable in music. I know Barb is being stereotypical when it comes to the specific types of music. However, Rachel Bloom goes on to say that.
She's a teenager. I mean, she has the mentality of kind of a 15-year-old who is deeply insecure and very overcompensatory and wants to be the queen of everything and wants to make her dad proud. And she still kind of hasn't grown up, because that's a pretty immature thing to think, oh, if everyone just thinks the way I do, then everything will be fine.
So they're making it very clear that Barb is very insecure, and a moment with Poppy and Barb will make that clear later. Barb doesn't know any better, and has different ideologies compared to the other trolls. We'll also get to why she is in the wrong, but is primarily an antagonist, not a villain. Also, when Barb and the rest of the rock trolls knock out Trollzart's army, they're playing a classical tune, which again proves my point. Branch says that they need to make sure that the pop string is safe until Poppy reveals that she has it in her hair. Why? However, this to me is a good thing, because of the fact that it's delaying the inevitable. Since Barb is going to go after Pop Village anyway, it's the best bad option our leads have at the moment.
Poppy is once again voiced by Anna Kendrick, who is reunited with Justin Timberlake as Branch, now Poppy's boyfriend.
Then they do the Pinky Promise segment, which is cool and now has some weight since there's a threat of losing Biggie if the promise is broken. Poppy and the rest, mostly Poppy, decide to head to Lonesome Flats, and Penny Whistle stays behind to rebuild. Then Debbie comes back to Barb, and we see the invitation.
Friendship takes time and years of mutual care and respect. You don't just become best friends.
Oh my god, Barb just became the voice of reason right there. After a glitter bomb, Barb snaps and introduces us to the bounty hunters, Chaz the jazz troll, the reggae trolls, and the K-pop trolls, and the yodelers, who aren't here. I smell a twist. Not a particularly great one, but we'll get to it. After the bounty hunters leave, Riff gets a chance to shine. Poppy and the rest make it to Lonesome Flats, where the mayor, Delta Dawn, played by Kelly Clarkson, sings Born to Die. I swear though, Born to Die is the most ballsy song on this list. It's basically about the fact that life can go way too quickly, going from being born to already working, as seen with that one baby country troll. As well as the lyrics, this kind of life has made our hearts as hard as leather. Even knowing the lyrics, we all know that we're just born to die. It makes it clear that life is short and we're all going to die soon, which is pretty morbid and I love it. It shows the stereotype, or not even the stereotype, of our lives being hardened and the world not giving a crap about feelings, because that's not how the world works. That even trolls can think of morbid things and even have existential crises. It even shows Poppy how different everything truly can be. One thing I'd like to see the country trolls do, however, is sing a song talking about the glories of living the country life. That way the country trolls can show Poppy that the country life isn't bitter and dark all the time. Branch gets a line to shine from, and Poppy shirks her inner prejudice, which makes sense to do, because without understanding and showing the good traits, she's going to assume stuff about the country trolls. There are breakup songs that exist, and we almost got one for the movie, Bite Me. Poppy and the others get together and think of what they need to do. A pop medley. They sing Wannabe, which is my favorite of the medley, Who Let the Dogs Out, which is fine for what it is, Good Vibrations, which is also fine, Gangnam Style, which is my most hated because I hate Gangnam Style, and Party Rock Anthem, which is my second favorite of the medley. A nice detail to see is that the kids are dancing. It reminds me of a Star Versus episode, where the adults couldn't get along but the kids could. They're thrown in a jail cell, and we get a genuine moment for a minute. Once again, masterful. Very little dialogue, perfect for me playing in the background, and facial expressions and eye shifts portrayed fantastically. We get a stupid ass joke, and they try to dig their way out until Hickory, played by Sam Rockwell, comes in to break them out. I'll talk about Poppy, Branch, Biggie, and Cooper's development soon enough in an argument that'll go for a really long time. I'll also talk about Barb and the rest of the new cast later as well. Right now, let's talk about Hickory. What do I think of Hickory? Personally, I think Hickory is awesome, and he deserves a lot of praise, because of the kind of guy he is. Supportive, caring, and willing to help others. He's also genuinely a really cool guy and ally. I like him in his country state more, because that's who I know him as. A twist later will kind of ruin that concept, but know that I really do like Hickory. In fact, Sam Rockwell knew he played the part so well, he came to shooting days in a cowboy hat, boots, and everything. It's awesome. The gang gets into a chase as they escape Lonesome Flats with Dierks Bentley, the guy who sang Drunk on a Plane, and many others singing. People asked why Chris Stapleton isn't part of the soundtrack. He is. He wrote Leaving Lonesome Flats. Also, the detail of Branch being tickled by the mustache is amazing. The acting is amazing when Poppy says, "We're not gonna make it!" I question how Hickory knows that they are pop trolls, but then you realize he watched the medley. They fall into the river, and then... what the hell? Okay, that was odd. Look at the size difference, it's amazing.
I'm really glad you came with me.
Me too.
People, these get better and better. Poppy thanks Hickory with gumdrops. They'll come back. Trust me, they're a plot point, they'll come back. Then Branch starts questioning Hickory.
Why are you helping us?
Legitimately good question.
I'm sorry about my associate.
Dick. And right after that special moment, too. However, I can excuse that because it does sound rude to question them and go a bit harsh on them without having them give an answer. Bite me! Hickory builds them a raft with a cappuccino machine.
I do want one, but I am not happy about it.
See, trolls? You can be funny without toilet humor. If only you learned that in the first movie. Also, continuity callback since Branch drinks coffee in the holiday special. We then see Cooper still looking for his kind, and he runs into Jazzbirds. Moving on. He crapped out the flames too? Ouch. Branch is spying on Hickory, and Poppy and Branch have an argument.
It's not Hickory you don't trust, it's me.
What? No one said that or thought that.
Do you not think I'm a good queen?
No, I think you're good. You're not the best at it, but you're pretty good.
We are friends, and sometimes that means speaking up if I think you're making a mistake.
And that's not a bad thing. It can mean being helpful and willing to rely on your friends for help. Also, people, we can excuse Poppy not listening throughout the movie because, in this, she wants to be the good queen so bad that she focuses on doing the best that she can do, not the best that others can do. Sure, it's a bad idea and no one should ever do this. But Poppy's not perfect, and I expected her to go through this, especially since there are many behind-the-scenes footages that show that Poppy really does look up to her dad, and that her dad doesn't think that she's a good queen.
My dad doesn't think I'm a good queen.
Anyway, Chaz, played by Christian Grey himself, Jamie Dornan, starts playing his jazz, and we get this, to me, infamous scene. Alright, we've got a lot to talk about, so buckle up. Let's start with the fact that that drink is definitely alcohol. The main reason is because when I looked up the fizzy juice name, I got alcohol. That plant looks like a jawbreaker. Notice how Poppy has more in her glass than Branch, and that explains why Poppy's more affected by the jazz than Branch is. Everybody noticed this detail, but Branch held the phone upside down. Why in the world did they not go surfing? Those waves look dope. And finally, is that a veil on Poppy's head? Foreshadowing of a wedding? I smell that for Trolls 3 and the other sequels. Okay, with that, we're done. Anything else? Well, I know that the legs in that scene belong to the co-director, David P. Smith, as Walt Doran confirmed in a tweet. But that's about all I can give you. Anyway, Chaz is about to finish them off, but Hickory comes in and saves the day.
Gumdrops. Soundproof and delicious.
That'll also come back later. Hickory explains that Chaz is one of the bounty hunters looking for Poppy and the rest. This causes Biggie to lose it.
Stop saying that and listen to me. You only hear what you want to hear and it puts us all in danger.
Takes me back to the good old days when Trolls only had one movie. Biggie gets upset and leaves, troubling Poppy. Meanwhile, with Cooper, we get a few desert jokes and he gets sucked up by a spaceship. Back to our leads. Hickory gets a good song to shine, while he also gets a good moment to shine. Then the others are sucked into the spaceship. I love the reaction that Poppy has as she gets sucked into the spaceship. Anyway, the leads end up meeting with Cooper and his twin, Prince D, played by Anderson .Paak. You guys can already tell how much time they took to get the diehard cast that fits the roles perfectly. We meet Cooper's dad, King Quincy, played by George Clinton, and Cooper's mom, Queen Essence, played by Mary J. Blige. I need to mention right off the bat, Cooper has the best development in this movie, from his backstory and his behavior, and thus he's no longer the comic relief type we saw him as in the first movie. I love this movie. They're genuinely kind trolls who seem friendly about the fact that there are other types of trolls in their kingdom. That goes away, though, when Poppy asks them to unite against Barb to show her that music is supposed to unite everyone, and that everyone is the same. King Quincy disagrees. With respect, of course. Then we get the first big twist of the movie, that the pop trolls tried to steal the strings. Notice how Cooper's mood is affected in the background. He had no idea about this, and to see facial expressions conveyed subtly is amazing. I just wish we saw Branch or Hickory's reaction to this bombshell. Darnell gets a moment to shine with a line that I really like.
Scrapbooks? Those are cut out, glued, and glittered by the winners.
It describes the POV of the people that lost, and normally you don't hear this POV often, especially in reality, with World War II and many other wars, especially politically. This twist works great. Why? Because of the fact that it was conveyed subtly, but there were clues throughout that would convey this twist to be true. You would never think about the pop trolls being bad guys in any situation, because we associate the pop trolls with our leads. The first clue that reveals that twist is that no one questions the other troll's POV with how it all went down. Also, the animation with this musical number looks amazing. I mean, look at the backgrounds, yo! Props to the animation team, seriously. After the musical number, they put the pieces together and convey the ultimate message that I'll get to in a big, long rant.
But we're not all the same.
They reflect our different music.
Denying our differences is denying the truth of who we are.
And that's the most perfect message you can convey to kids about the world. Everyone has equal rights to what they can do, own, and be in this world. But that doesn't mean everyone's the same. If everyone was the same, there wouldn't be a concept called individuality or ethics. We all believe different things, or have a different idea regarding the same belief. That's why there are different governments, different ideologies, and, sadly, different parties. It's part of what makes us, us. Denying those differences is denying that we're all unique in many ways, denying our own personalities, denying what makes us special. Also, did anyone realize that at the beginning of the movie, Poppy pointed out differences in appearance, and the differences here are based on something close to ethnic belief, experience, community beliefs, and even race, to an extent. Now it's time to answer the questions that are related to World Tour to make the continuity easier. You start. No, really, you start. Let's really think about this. I'd argue that the main reason for why the two didn't start their romantic relationship in the first movie is because of the amount of time that passed in the first movie. You have to realize that the amount of time that passed in the first movie was 3 days. Here's how. It was nighttime when Poppy went into Branch's bunker. It was daytime when Poppy sang Get Back Up Again. Nighttime again when Poppy and Branch settled down. Daytime again when Poppy and Branch were heading towards the troll tree. Sunset when Poppy and the others left the roller rink, and when Poppy and the others get the amulet and get captured. Daytime again when Poppy and the others are about to be sent out for trollstice. I don't count the green skies, because I don't know if it's nighttime or not. That makes it clear that 3 days have passed since Poppy left the village. There's no way Poppy and Branch go from petty enemies to romantic lovers in 3 days. Sure, Branch says I love you in the True Colors song, but it's more like saying I love you because Poppy brightens Branch's day, because she makes Branch happy, as well as that being the lyrics to the song. It's common for people to say I love you because of the happiness they provide, as well as brightening your day. You also have to realize that the song True Colors is all about letting your true self shine, and loving them for their true selves. With Justin Timberlake confirming that the two even had a flirtation thing going on between them, it confirms that the relationship starts out as a slow process. Even when Poppy sings Stars Shining Right Above You, which could indicate a subtle way of showing that Poppy had some feelings for Branch. Their relationship was more like Poppy being concerned for Branch, about how he lives his life when it comes to being depressed and closed off, especially since everyone only lives once. She even went on to say, singing helps me relax, which allows him to understand her personality, which is the big key in a relationship with her. That way, the two understand a lot about each other and why they act the way they do. That's important when it comes to both of them, and allowing them to get to know each other. Taking their time to know if they're ready to be in a romantic relationship with each other, which definitely explains why it takes them 4 years to talk about their relationship again. For the first question, that answer is yes, to an extent. Like the comment I've seen on Wattpad, Poppy definitely loves Branch, specifically because of all the different moments we've seen in the first film. The fact that Poppy seemed disappointed and sad when Branch rejected the idea of Poppy being queen, Poppy sending out all her cards to Branch, and Branch singing True Colors, wanting her to be happy and not give up. Lots of people keep talking about friend zoning in the movie, and I don't buy it. The main reason is because the way Poppy said it doesn't sound like friend zoning. Branch just interpreted it as friend zoning. Poppy considered her friendship with Branch important, and Poppy ultimately broke and felt helpless, or that she messed up with her decisions to not listen when Branch inevitably had an argument with Poppy about the actions that needed to be taken to ensure the string's safety as well as the other troll's safety. She even went so far as to cry when Branch left, because she felt horrible about the inevitable truth Branch had to tell her, specifically because she knows that he's right about this. We also have to keep the facial expressions throughout this movie in mind, and how much they conveyed how happy Poppy was bringing Branch along for this movie's journey. As for the latter option, I'd argue that Poppy realized how much Branch loved her and cared for her in that moment. There's a huge difference between caring and really caring. Branch really cared because he took the time to help her in any situation where she felt down in the dumps, when all her other friends were in the same position that she was. Despite everyone else being against Poppy's ideas in the film, Branch still kept supporting her because there was a chance in which she'd be right about going on this adventure and stopping Barb, even though he had his own doubts. When he saw that Barb was already getting more powerful and it was easier for her to get the final strings, Branch had to allow Poppy to face the facts and that they needed to flee so that Barb didn't get the string, especially since he knew that Poppy had the pop string in her hair. You could also argue that Branch still went along with Poppy because he wanted to support her. He even said, "We are friends, and sometimes that means speaking up if I think you're making a mistake," which is also a way of supporting her, letting her know that her ways could put them in major danger of exposing the string, or even getting captured or hurt by the rock trolls. Branch also wanted to let her know that she means the world to him, even though they're just friends. I mean, why do you guys think Branch never tries to tell Poppy that he loves her directly throughout this movie, and instead goes for subtle ways of letting her know that he still supports her and cares for her, because he still thinks he's been friend-zoned? Poppy reacted all shocked and confused because of how much care he showed Poppy compared to all her other friends. It's not because she just realized after 4 years that he loved her. What do you think that picture that Branch has in his room is supposed to be? When exactly was that picture taken exactly? Also, look at their facial expressions in the picture and realize that the two were alone in the picture. We also have to go back to the Trolls Holiday Special, which is canon, by the way. Know that Poppy's had moments where she felt vulnerable with emotional moments, and Branch has had moments where he's tried to help her feel better. Every single time these moments happened, Poppy and Branch were strictly focused on specific events, like saving the trolls, helping the Bergens find a holiday, or any of the other events that happened before World Tour's journey. They never had the chance to actually talk about their feelings, or even consider their feelings for each other, despite being clear to the audience. For Poppy to now know how much he cares for her in all the years they've been friends, and to care enough for their relationship to mean something more than just friendship, that's what she discovers. I know a lot of people will think, wouldn't the fact that Branch really cares about Poppy open her eyes to the fact that Branch loves Poppy? Normally it would. You're right, yes. But you have to realize that when you have a lot of responsibilities with a job as the ruler of a village and its citizen, and are responsible for their safety, you'll tend to think responsibilities come first, which isn't a bad thing. She just had to have a moment with Branch where there aren't a lot of things going on. in which she could finally open her eyes and understand the scope of all Branch does for her. And listen. It's not a character flaw, especially if she wanted to prove to herself that she was a good queen to everyone, and making that her primary goal. I personally just wish the deleted lines where Poppy was supposed to say that her father doesn't think she's a good queen was in the movie. Then her reasoning would be much stronger. However, that's for another argument, talking about the main problem with this film. If she did this without any good reasoning, then yes, she would be unlikable. However, you have to understand the reasoning behind why she doesn't listen, and what kind of character personality we're talking about. In fact, here's a much better critic than me explaining how this works, with the example being with Rarity.
It's exceptional here because Rarity does some pretty despicable actions. It would have been so easy for this to become another May the Best Pet win. But no, Rarity does some believably bad actions, but we see her thought process. And as she justifies it to herself, we justify it as well. That doesn't change the fact that the actions are still pretty despicable, so you get a good dilemma going.
1. That's the key word. Believably. Poppy does make some believably bad decisions when she decides to send Barb the card, and when she puts too much trust into Hickory. We also see Poppy's thought process. With the card, Poppy thought Barb wanted to unite the trolls in a specific way that she thought it was, and so she wanted to pitch in and help. It's not particularly too smart when it comes to thinking, but you have to remember, Poppy's positive. That's her key character trait. With putting trust into Hickory, she had the thought process that Hickory was helping them, and thus, that's why they open up to him, especially because Hickory could have turned them into the other bounty hunters. We'll get to that in a minute. Or chose not to break them out. The more Poppy justifies it, we do too. Remember, as Mr. Enter said, it doesn't change the fact that it is despicable. So there's a good dilemma with Poppy.
Even though Rarity doesn't suffer any consequences, it's actually made abundantly clear that she has learned her lesson. That's how you do it. I do not need a character to be punished. I just need them to realize that they did something wrong.
Also, as Mr. Enter said, even though Poppy doesn't suffer any consequences, it's made abundantly clear that Poppy has indeed learned her lesson about listening. I do not need Poppy to be punished. I just need her to realize that she was wrong in not listening to others. In fact, if you want to take this dilemma another way, I think it was fine when Poppy didn't listen to her father. Yeah, I said it. Why do I think that? Because he never justifies why the pop trolls are hiding from the other trolls. Or at the very least, never explains it with good reasoning like Biggie and Branch. Compare Peppy's reason with Branch's reason. Branch explains it in a way that seems understandable as to why they should go back home and hide, to protect their friends and family. Peppy never says it like that, and thus, Poppy sees it as Peppy hiding from Barb and the other trolls, which means he was assuming the worst about the other trolls, and not giving them a chance or thinking they're peaceful just like them. It seems like he's hiding from them, because they're different, especially when he's never met them yet. Sure, he'd be right about Barb, but not about the other trolls. So I'm very glad that Poppy didn't listen to Peppy, especially since he'll say how wrong he was near the end of the movie. We'll get to that. Assuming that we're looking at specific POVs, I'd have to say no one is really the bad guy in this situation. Yes, I know you guys are going to tell me that the pop ancestor got greedy and took the strings. However, there's one word that can change that and make the message even more understandable and perfect. That word is motivation. What is the pop ancestor's motivation? We don't know. We only know that the pop ancestor got greedy and stole the strings. This makes me believe that both Peppy's story and the Funk story could be true. Why? Because remember, this is the Funk Trolls story about how it went down. And while it could be true, they left out why the pop ancestor stole the strings. Maybe the trolls really were fighting over what the strings should play, and the pop ancestor got desperate and stole the strings. Or heck, I'm even surprised that none of the other troll tribes stole the string. It's really hard for me to go on to believe that the pop ancestor got greedy and went on to steal the strings just because, you know? Although that's just a theory, I know that no one is really at fault for what happened. All the troll tribes saw music as a way of life, but know that they thought their own music was their way of life. Thus, it makes sense for something to happen and to be isolated, because they put too much pride into their own music. After all, Prince D has the lyrics, they cut us out of the scene, and they forgot what it really means. I feel like each troll tribe forgot what music really meant and where it really comes from. In Peppy's story, we know that music is inspired by a sound, not the sound. That means anyone can make music, and that the trolls themselves created music by any sound. The trolls forgot that music comes from inside as well as by talent. Instead, they thought the strings created music. Look, I know that the strings have the power to make music, but you have to realize that the strings had to be made. How did they make different types of music by one sound? Because it doesn't. It takes a variety of beats and rhythms to make a different type of music. For the trolls, all the trolls, to believe that music comes from the strings, like they keep thinking throughout the movie, influences the message even more. Why? Because the strings serve as a symbol of how the trolls got their identity as the tribes that they are and their rule. But it doesn't determine anything or everything about the trolls or define the troll tribes like they keep identifying. The same way humanity has had different ways of creating laws, making food, starting up businesses, and prospering into trade, different laws, and many other things that grew in variety as humanity had new group names, countries, armies, agendas at the time, religion, etc. However, all of this came from one man and one woman in the prehistoric eras, the before Christ eras. I'm talking about Adam and Eve, of course. The same can even be said with animals, biology, the earth, and more. The point I'm trying to get across is that the beginning had nothing at all. Humanity had to discover things, make things, mix things, experiment with things, and even accidentally make things. And now look where we are. It's the same for the trolls. They had to discover the sound and experiment with different types of sound, mix sounds together to get something new and different, and thus the trolls became the trolls we know and love, as well as all the other tribes becoming the trolls we grow to love in World Tour. Bazing! Basically, the trolls are going to have moments where they'll fight about things and how different ways of life are going to live with each other, especially if one different way of life can't stand another way of life. That's why humanity has had multiple wars, and why there were clashes with religion with the Palestinian wars and the Crusades, agendas as well as the country's own good with World War II and the Cold War, and defending their way of life, or people who inspired their way of life, with World War I and the Civil War here in America. Through those times, however, more peace was created, hence why we have a United Nations. While the world isn't always at peace with wars in specific countries, protests, pandemics, crimes, and many other terrible things that happen with humanity, there's more peace and knowledge, even though we're still dealing with old wounds, indicating racism. It's the exact same way with the trolls, and they themselves have to discover that. Whew. Got all that? Perfect. If there are any more questions for me, you can comment in the comment section. Also, if it's a hard question, I might have to get back to you a day later since I have to think about the answer. Anyway, moving back to the plot. The rock trolls attack and Cooper gets everyone to safety just as the rock trolls cut the power and invade. Then we get the ultimate fight with Poppy and Branch.
We have to get back down there!
Down there? What the? They're still in the sky! They fight about going home and Poppy wanting to prove that she's a good queen, yada yada. You already know this.
Because your dad was right, and Biggie was right, and Queen Essence was right.
Well, technically her father wasn't right with why the pop trolls had to run and hide to protect the pop string. Also, Poppy doesn't want to go home so that she can prove that she's a good queen. Poppy, you do realize that you can go home and protect your people. That'll prove that you're a good queen. To be fair, though, she has no idea that Pop Village was already destroyed and ransacked. We'll get to that. I also love how Branch closes his eyes and raises his head, like he's about to regret what he's going to say, or he's afraid to tell her this because he doesn't want to emotionally hurt her, or mentally hurt her. They pull off the whole trying to be angry at each other when they're really not, which may be cringy, but not really. Then Branch lets her know that he cares about her more than anyone else in the world and leaves, leaving Poppy forlorn and crying. This gesture is crying, by the way, and to see her affected like this made me feel bad, which means they did the emotional moments much better. In fact, when I watched this movie for the first time, their fight really hurt. You can tell I was hurt by that moment when I talked about it in my spoiler stream. Also, Branch, you said that differences do matter, and then referred to your relationship with Poppy. This time, I say that you took the message too far. Differences do matter, but that doesn't mean your relationship with someone is affected and damaged by your personality being different from Poppy's. Personality differences and bonding with others is where differences really don't matter. You're not too different to get along. You're frustrated because you think running away and hiding is the best possible option. You'll soon come to realize that Poppy is right in running away and doing something. Let's be real for a minute. If Poppy and the rest never ran away and did anything, would anything change? No, it wouldn't. Heck, your difference in personality compared to Poppy's would actually make the message stronger, because not only can you realize that differences do matter when it comes to being unique and expressing who you are, but don't in regards to being treated equally and bonding with people who are different from you, because then you can gain a new perspective on life and knowledge, as well as a new friend that'll be there for you no matter what. I have many friends from different places, from New Mexico, Scotland, Canada, Iran, Delaware, and many other places, and I bond with all of them amazingly, and they're there for me when I need them. The message is strengthened when you realize that no one is the bad guy, not even Poppy with her flaws. It's all based around experience and acceptance, and your right to express your feelings and opinions, the right to be an individual. It's based around the fact that everyone can be who they are and they can bond with others, no matter who they are. That's what they're conveying, and that's why they put so much emphasis on differences, is so people can tell the differences between being different in society and bonding, and different in being unique to who you are, like King Quincy said. Bazinga! Anyway, Branch starts singing Perfect for Me, my favorite song in the entire movie. Why is this my favorite song in the movie and not, say, just sing? Well, the main reason is emotion, and allowing you to think and feel something. It's ironic how the songs and trolls that make you feel happy and joyful, and only those two emotions, do not make me feel as emotional, while songs and trolls that make you feel a multitude of emotions other than happiness or sadness, and allow you to think about a lot of things, such as how these people mean the world to you in your life, how arguing with them makes you feel, an important one with how do you really feel about them, another important one with is your dedication really worth it, your fears and trauma. Heck, if we had to think about it for a second to make everyone feel bad about this realization, does anyone realize that Poppy was an important person to Branch because of all she did when he had no one else? And while she wasn't perfect, she was still in character, and that he loved her for her personality. To hear him saying, "You're no good for me," even though we know otherwise, is hard. But what's even harder is when he sings, "I'm no good for you," indicating that he's messed up too, and that it feels a lot like he lost Poppy. Thus, he lost another special part of his life. Yeah, those are the things that nobody really thinks about. Nobody would ever say, "I'm no good for you" because of anything that the other person did. Nobody would ever say, "I'm no good for you" if they themselves didn't do anything wrong. Did anyone also realize that men say, "I'm no good for you" to indicate things like, "I'm a bad influence on you," or "I really feel like I'm not good enough"? Didn't think about that, did ya? The more I ask those questions, and the more I realize all of this, the more I feel for Branch and Poppy both, knowing that something as small but important such as listening drove them apart. When I can feel multiple emotions and feel something, the more I can relate to someone in a show or movie. This is why character development is important to me in entertainment, and one factor that goes with my criticism. Great entertainment can make you feel like you relate to all that's going on with everyone or someone in a show or movie. Or it's supposed to give you a new view of the world around you. While having a strong plot and good jokes can help out, quiet moments like this, where kids, teenagers, and adults can relate to something that they themselves have felt, such as not feeling good enough for specific people in their lives, whether it's your parents, a crush, a spouse, a girlfriend or boyfriend, etc. I'm not trying to imply that all movies should have these, because they don't have to depending on the genre. I'm saying that having good, quiet moments like these can influence development and thus help out with making a movie much stronger. Why? The more we see development like this from Branch, the more I want to see him succeed with Poppy, and the more intrigued I am with the story. The more I don't care about any flaws that our leads have because they can learn from their mistakes and grow into someone who's more than just a joyful gumball like Poppy and an intelligent mouthpiece like Branch. They can grow into trolls that have strong character and grow a dynamic in which I want to know more about them in the future. For example, I want to know about Poppy's teen life and a little bit more of her past. Does Poppy have a mother? If so, then what happened to her? What's Poppy's weaknesses? What's her strength? The more I learn about Poppy, the more she doesn't seem stereotypical, indicating that her positivity is her key trait, while she has a strong character that defines who she is. The same goes with Branch as well. Did he have any parents besides his grandma? Did he have a crush on Poppy when he was younger? Was Poppy his first crush? Remember, we didn't see Branch's past other than his grandma's kidnapping. The more they build up these quiet moments and developments, the more I can feel for them and thus be more intrigued in the world, the story, their dynamic of how they'll grow through more movies and what they'll come to discover about themselves, and more importantly, how they'll inspire you and become special figures in your life. The key for anything special in media of any kind. Look at How to Train Your Dragon, or Madagascar, or almost all Disney films, or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or Hotel Transylvania, and a bunch of other great movies and franchises I could name. Anyway, development aside, Perfect for me has a nice beat, beautiful instrumentation from the piano and the string section, beautiful singing from my boy Justin Timberlake, and memorable imagery. Now to my editing self, showing you a part of that scene that's amazing. The party planner, doing the editing at about 10:26-ish in the nighttime. For the clips that I'm doing for the review, this will be added to the review, but I wanted to show everybody a fun little clip, a quick clip real quick. And something that I didn't notice was that in the movie you get a good transition where Poppy and Branch are clearly dancing in the water and Poppy drags him in, but one thing you didn't know is if you slow down the tempo way too much, you will end up seeing Branch being dragged into the water, doing a small loop-de-loop, and then you immediately go into the dance. You always would think it's pretty much just a transition and everything. However, it's not. It's just a small loop-de-loop, and it's immediately into the dance. Another thing, too, is the fact that whenever you see Poppy and Branch dance throughout the whole thing, they never break eye contact with each other, ever. Either they're looking at a hair, or their ears, or just straight-up eye contact. They never take their eyes off each other throughout the whole dance. And whenever they do, it's only for a little bit before they bring eye contact back to each other. By the way, most of the actors were either excited to be here, knew what kind of message they were portraying, had a fun time with their acting, or all three.
This film upped the ante with the emphasis put on music. I mean, all different kinds of music, all different genres of music. And that brings it together as a world peace through music. I think this one actually achieved that, all people have a groove that they can participate in. And to bring it together on one film is excellent.
As a sort of the producer of all this music, coming up with all these different styles and bringing them together was a big challenge, but a lot of fun for myself and the whole team. We really touched on so many different styles of music, and when you see the movie back, it's something that I think we're all really proud of, is that we're teaching young minds about all these different styles and how that can relate to life, and representing a celebration of individuality and how being different is pretty cool. And felt like, honestly, the way that I grew up hearing so many different and experiencing so many different styles of music, I felt like a kid again.
With Don't Slack, it was kind of like the end of the session, I felt like, and I just hopped on the drums, and Ludwig, who was making all the music with Justin as well, he hopped on the guitar, and the songs like that, they either can take years to make or just minutes, and that was one that just happened in minutes.
When you're at school, it can be really hard to be different. The tiniest difference in your life can be something which becomes massive. The wrong haircut, the wrong bag, the wrong pair of shoes. School can be pretty brutal sometimes. But this is a film which I hope tells you that actually, if you're different, if you look different, if you think different, you're probably one of the luckiest people in that school. because it means you've got an imagination, and it means you've got a want for something else, for something new, to create something. And so the film celebrates all differences, and so long as you use those differences to be positive and to make a difference, either in your school or outside your school, and every day really, you'll be celebrated for it one day. I guarantee you that.
With Queen Essence has been fun for me because it's acting is something that I love to do, and you get a chance to speak for these cartoon characters, and I am a huge animation film fan. I love all types of cartoons, and just to be able to speak for Queen Essence and to be a part of a huge franchise like Trolls is just amazing. I'm so grateful.
Explores kind of the complex idea of if we're all alike, there won't be fighting, but then the world would be a boring place. And so, especially in this day and age, a movie that celebrates differences and celebrates disagreeing and different points of view.
So many humans that look like troll characters, and I think that when they see this cartoon, they can see, themselves. They can finally see someone that they can relate to. There's always a little troll inside of us. Some, go on and comment and make, little posts and stuff. But I think this is more so about that positive troll that lives inside of you. You know what I'm saying? And I think people love the fact that all these genres are coming together. So then they, people come up with hard rock, and then they get exposed to hip hop, and then that kind of changes their whole life. Or not enough people know about classical music, you know what I'm saying? So it's giving a lot of shine to these genres and stuff.
He's just the friend of all friends, and I get to be friends again with my Bella, Anna Kendrick, so I'm excited. I love my character's confidence, and I love that she's for everybody, and she's a big support system, and I think she's excited that she's a troll, and I'm excited for her that she's a troll. Never forget everything, just
trying to figure out how to work it all. You heard the story. All trolls sing, all trolls dance. Happy with that? Good. I'm out of here. We made peace between trolls and Bergens. I'm pretty sure we can make peace between trolls and trolls. Branch, I can't do this without you.
Anna, how do you feel about doing it again?
I feel okay about doing it again.
Well, you know what? That's all we ask, is an okay.
Is an okay.
I feel okay about everything.
Okay,
that's
great.
about as far as I go with
Okay.
everything. Here we go.
If we sing it all together, if we sing it all together, it's not loving yourself.
Oh! Poppy, goodbye.
Just sing it together, louder than ever, ever. Forget everything, just sing like it's what we've been missing. And they're gonna listen, forget everything.
At the beginning of Trolls 2, the world tour, Poppy is queen now, which is very exciting. So she's in a kind of leadership role, and she's kind of discovering who she is as a leader. And she finds out that there are all these other kinds of trolls in the world, and they have all these different styles of music that they have their kind of worldview based on. And she finds out that there's another queen who wants to take over all the trolls and have the only music in the troll universe be rock music. And Poppy and Branch have to kind of go on this really fun adventure and meet all these different kinds of trolls to save all the music, obviously. I felt really confident and happy to be working with him again, and really looked forward to those sessions because I get to kind of dabble in music. You know, I've been lucky enough to be in films where I get to kind of stand just on the outside of the music world. And, you know, having somebody like Justin involved, it just makes me feel so grateful that I get to like fulfill that little part of me and know that I'm in such good hands, you know? It's like having like the best parachute on your back.
Continuing with Perfect for Me, during the song, Poppy pulls him into the river and they dance together. A lot of people would think that Poppy isn't really singing along, but when it pulls out to real life, she really is singing along, which means that she sang the lyrics with Branch during that supposed dance scene. One thing that I wish they did show is the different viewpoints of Poppy singing the lyrics on her own throughout the forest, while Branch is singing as well. We'd be able to see Poppy's emotions and even her tears seeing her last scene. One of the things that we need to make clear when it comes to Broppy is that Anna Kendrick herself went on to say that we see more of vulnerable Branch, which supports my statement about Branch.
We get a little bit of vulnerable Branch in this one because he wants to, you know, say that he feels more than friends with Poppy, and, you know, he just doesn't have the courage to really say it. So it's really sweet to see them evolving and, you know, trying to talk about their feelings.
When Anna herself went on to say that it's great for the two to talk about their feelings, you know it's great too. Also, Justin himself described Branch in these moments as adolescent Branch.
Branch and Poppy's relationship has changed a little bit. Poppy, there's something I was hoping to ask you. Well, I mean, I guess it's something I want to tell you more so. I like to describe him as adolescent Branch. He's like feeling all these new things and doesn't know exactly how to put them into words.
Which makes sense for what this story is supposed to be and the dynamic for the two. The producer, Gina Shea, even commented on the feel for the Trolls movies and what they're supposed to convey, and further supports my explanation about the differences in being different for Broppy and the other Trolls.
Trolls movies are about inspiring one to be their best self. And Trolls movies are also super joyous. And Trolls movies actually tap into the person who wants to sing and dance inside you every day.
Perfect for Me is, well, perfect for me. Now we get to the dance-off between the reggae trolls, led by Tresillo, played by J Balvin, and the K-pop trolls, played by the Korean K-pop group Red Velvet. Fun fact, one of the Red Velvet leaders played Poppy in the Korean version of this movie. Anyway, we cut to the biggest problem of the movie in my opinion, the runtime. Why do I point this out? Because of the fact that the movie is 1 hour and 30 minutes, the plot goes at rapid speed, and thus you never get the chance to slow down and take everything in, or think of the emotional moments. I'm going to show you 2 scenes, and tell me you don't think that it feels rushed. See what I mean? It goes way too quickly and they take it as plot first or get through the plot as quick as possible. We go through the dance and it's pretty entertaining and cool, and Branch makes his speech.
Why does Barb get to decide which music gets to be saved? All music should be saved.
Legit good question. Does this movie need my criticism or my help? It's doing good on its own. We see Poppy, and I'm gonna let my live self tell you what's awesome about this scene. Hey everybody, it's Party Planner Preston in the flesh to show you all a special moment from Trolls World Tour, in which the song that comes from the strings, or the music that comes from the string, is literally inspiring the music playing right now. Listen. Tell me that's not amazing. Tell me that's not amazing. Anyway, back to the review at hand. Hickory meets up with Poppy and she explains what she messed up with. When the string is out in the open, Hickory tells Poppy to take the string and run, leading to the weaker twist of the film. He actually faked his country self, and with Dickory is revealed to be one of the yodelers, and was intending to take the string and bring it to Barb. This twist is pretty weak. Not because I wasn't surprised, but more because I didn't think it was shocking enough. The main reason is because of the obvious clues. The first clue is that when Hickory sees them doing the medley, he does not do anything during the medley, or reacts the way the other country trolls are reacting. Second clue, during the moment when Chaz hypnotizes them, he calls out Chaz's name, which gives off the indication that he knows who Chaz is, and there wouldn't be anyone else who would know about the bounty hunters unless they were bounty hunters themselves. Third clue, he mentions that there are bounty hunters. Once again, nobody knows about the bounty hunters, so that would indicate he's a bounty hunter. Fourth clue, when Branch questions Hickory, he never answers Branch's question. Basically, the twist that Hickory is a yodeler troll was good, but the twist that he's a bounty hunter was weak. Make sense? Perfect. Dickory, played brilliantly by Flula Borg, takes the string and gives it to Barb, despite Hickory's change of heart. A lot of people need to understand this. All the bounty hunters aren't bad trolls. They just do this because if they don't, their music will be gone.
I'll never stop fighting until I make things right, and I'm not a pipsqueak.
Angry Kendrick is freaking hilarious, man. Poppy realizes that Pop Village has been ransacked and destroyed after Barb clues her in. Meanwhile, Biggie makes it back to Pop Village to find it destroyed and vandalized. The Snack Pack and Legsley, DJ will come back, we'll get to that in a bit, are okay. Biggie feels bad for leaving, and the Snack Pack plan to save Poppy and the others. We see Poppy being taken to Volcano City. Barb and Poppy throw crypts at each other. Barb gets a moment to shine. #Rachel rules. And finally puts the pop string on the guitar. Everything about this guitar is so cool. Barb goes on stage and sings Barracuda, then gets the guitar in the coolest way possible. Seriously, that's awesome.
It is challenging because you have to be specific but also ambiguous. You always get like a specific criteria, what they're sort of going for, and then you kind of pick a vibe. That's what we did the first time, like Can't Stop the Feeling. So it's been really cool to almost go on a little bit of a like history trek with the music.
She's about to strike Poppy, but gets an instructional book thrown at her courtesy of Branch, the reggae trolls and the K-pop trolls. Branch coming in like that is freaking awesome. However, Emmy did this better. See how much better that was? While I wouldn't use the bolt music, I would use emotionally powerful music. Barb is about to strike Poppy again, but Branch takes the hit. He becomes a rock zombie. Oh, no points for me. Dang it. Barb starts turning everyone else into rock zombies. Poppy tries to escape, and she gets turned into a rock zombie too. Rock Poppy is awesome. Rock Poppy is told to finish them off. We get cool guitar moments with amazing sound design, and fakes Barb out even though we clearly saw Poppy still had red eyes. Odd. Apparently she used the gumdrops to drown out the sound. See, told you it would come back. And breaks the guitar, destroying the strings. So beautiful. I love that. The one part that gave me chills. You know what also gave me chills? The fact that there's a part where there is no sound at all. No talking, no music, nothing. For a full 20 seconds. Why couldn't quiet moments like this lasted longer earlier? Then Cooper's heartbeat. Through this, they make music. Did I mention that it's all awesome looking? Figure out the moral with the music that I talked about, then we get a beautiful chant from the Techno Trolls. Let's just get to Just Sing already, please. Just Sing is my second favorite song in the movie. It's only behind Perfect for me for obvious reasons. Just Sing is amazing with instrumentation, perfect with large group singing, and beautiful with visuals such as the rainbow volcano, the sun coming out, and the amazing rainbow swirl around Poppy. It's my second favorite song because of the message behind it. To express yourself and to don't ever be quiet about it. Don't be silenced. The fact that there are all these music tribes from specific types of music all across the world singing together in harmony and peace, it's very wholesome. And there's just something I find beautiful about that. Do I think it's stronger than Can't Stop the Feeling? In the message, yes. In being better than the other, not quite, but you're very close. After the song, Poppy sees her dad and apologizes. Then we get the most emotionally amazing line I've ever heard in the movie, and thus my favorite line in the movie.
You weren't naive about this world. You were brave enough to believe things could change.
Peppy talks about raising Poppy to be strong and self-confident. I'd compliment her much more than that. Also, that's pretty funny. But what's funnier is that he throws his cane, and if you look in the background, it literally walks off stage by itself. This humor is way better than the first movie. Barb and Poppy become friends, and Barb initiates a girl group. Heck yeah! I want to see that girl group have sleepovers and talk about boys in Trollstopia. It'll be so hilarious! And of course, Branch finally confesses.
I love that we're different.
And I love you, Queen Poppy.
I love you too, Branch.
I can finally die of adorable diabetes. They do the high five from earlier instead of a kiss. Believe me, I look close and it doesn't look like a lip kiss at all. Notice how I said lip kiss. There could have been a cheek kiss or something, but a lip kiss definitely didn't happen. Oh well, we'll be prepared in the threequel. Trust me, I'm actually okay with this outcome. The point of this point of Poppy and Branch's relationship is to question if they're more than just friends. They need to take it slow. It makes sense. Also, I need to bring my audience aside for a minute and talk about something, a comment that got things wrong. The video it was attached to is deleted, but I screenshotted the comment. I'm not expecting everyone to agree with what I think as I dissect this comment, but I do want people to understand what I think. Okay, am I seriously the only one who thinks DreamWorks forgot the whole first movie? DJ's missing again, the Bergens are too. Yes and no. No, because there were a lot of other people who questioned some things with this movie, and if it lapsed with the first movie. Yes, because I literally explained it minutes ago. First off, DJ's only missing because the actress was busy and couldn't come back for a role. They also didn't replace her. Now, quit saying they did, because chances are if they make a third movie, they'll bring her back, and Lexi will just be a new member of the snack pack. Second off, the Bergens are in the movie too. Bridget and Gristle show up at the end of the credits, which means the first movie did happen. And Branch already confessed to Poppy, who accepted his feelings during the True Color scene. Sure, loads of people think that was a friendship thing, but stop and think about it for a second. Poppy already thought of Branch as a friend, so to hear him say, "I love you," shouldn't have shocked her that much. Once again, I have to talk about the confession in the first movie. I'd argue that these were the lyrics he was singing as it goes back to the original source material. And sure, you're right, Poppy did think of Branch as a friend in the first movie, but you have to realize that crushes don't happen in the snap of Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. It happens over time, and that's why the True Color scene gets a pass and why they didn't get together. They had to figure out they were in love with each other first. Remember what Anna Kendrick said. It's sweet to see them evolving and talking about their feelings. The key word is evolving, indicating growth and letting something happen over time. Made her happy, yes, but it should have been more of an "I told you so" look than a shocked and touched one. This is because Poppy's shown herself to be a bit smug at times, and "I told you so" is the way that smug people behave at times like that, not total shock and a look of being touched. And "I told you so" would be a bit mean-spirited depending on how they act that out. Everyone in the chat already heard me talk about why Poppy's perfectly fine with her learning her lesson in regards to her terrible listening. Smug people behave like that sometimes. Yes, I'd agree with you if this was the first movie, but this isn't the first movie. They may throw quips, but not like the first movie. Plus, an "I told you so" would have ruined the moment and killed the mood. Second, Branch was already accepting her friendship after she hugged him because he lost his grandma. About that time, we started seeing a slow change in his behavior towards her. For one, he starts trusting her more, as seen when he desperately tells Poppy to help Bridget compliment Gristle. Then he turns to face her while telling Bridget his romantic poetry, smiling at her affectionately for a moment, before backtracking and shaking it off, probably because of Krieg. Then when they succeed in hooking Bridget up with Gristle, he starts trying to act like a troll again, even going so far as to try shouting for joy about a guy he seems to hate, and pulling a too slow trick on Poppy. Also notice at this time the smile on his face indicating he's somewhat happier. Around then it became obvious that he now saw Poppy as a friend, returning her friendship at last, but he was still gray, so being friends with Poppy wasn't good enough to make him happy. It wasn't until he confessed his hidden feelings and had Poppy turn around and receive them that his happiness peaked enough to turn blue again. Do we really want more unpleasant on top of the pile after we went through a few of them like we were supposed to? Once again, first off, this is the first legit thing you've said in regards to the Broppy relationship, as well as some subtle implications of the first movie that I personally thought was interesting and definitely real. Too bad we're almost done with the comment. Yeah, this is something that they should have said much earlier and built onto that. It would have added to their case. Second off, that's pretty dark, bro. To say that being friends with Poppy isn't good enough for Branch, and that she has to reciprocate the feelings in order for him to turn blue. Let's cut back to why Branch turned blue. I argue that having someone like Branch change as much as he did in that scene and bring Poppy's colors back, that allowed Poppy to bring Branch's colors back. It's a mutual compromise in which both of them are making each other happy, because that's what trolls do on the surface, is make each other happy. Notice how I said, on the surface, indicating that music is involved, and thanks to this movie, we know that trolls don't have to be happy or make each other happy in order to be trolls. You can even argue that making each other happy and all that stuff from the first film was the Pop Trolls' way of doing things, and all when Poppy took over as queen and as the princess. When Peppy was involved, we never saw the Pop Trolls do any of the stuff that was conveyed when Poppy was an adult. And during that scene, if you look closely, Poppy moves in for a kiss, making Branch smile wider there at the end. But because the film was aimed at 5-year-olds who think kissing is gross, the kiss gets cut off by Cooper's harmonica. Try to remember, people, this movie is for tiny kids ages 3 and up, so kissing and really romantic stuff like that is not allowed. Oh my gosh. That is the most safe thing they ever put, and my most irritable thing they've said in this comment. To start, this movie is not just for kids 3 and up. It can be for teens and adults. Next, kids may think kissing is gross when they're 5, but they would understand it and love it by the time they're 7, because most of the time, that's what happens. Why? Because when they were 5, kids didn't understand what kissing is or how it's portrayed or why people kiss. But when adults explained it or looked it up, they knew what it was and thus felt different emotions toward it. Also, this person says kissing or really romantic stuff is not allowed for censorship purposes. Then what about this?
This way, because I could get used to it.
That was from How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon, a kid's film. They did it again and again and again in every sequel afterwards. By their logic, kisses should not be allowed in any kids' film. The one in Rio, the one in Lady and the Tramp, the one in Shrek, the one in Tangled, they all sinned. Anyway, this kind of talk is close-minded. Also, Cora literally said it way better than I ever could. When children see adults kissing in movies, it shows them that adults who love each other often kiss. It would be wonderful if children learned that lesson first from their parents. Seeing their parents show affection gives children a sense of security, that their parents love each other, and that their family life is secure. Sadly, not all families include parents who love each other, but it is still useful for children to see that ideal, because someday they will be adults, and they need to see models of healthy, loving relationships. Kissing in children's movies show this. There you go. Cora said it. They put my thoughts into words, respectfully and carefully. How do you do that? I get where they're coming from, though. Not all kids' films need to have romance in them. But if there was, and your child was, say, 6 years old, or 8 years old, or even 3 years old, would they really react with, "Blech, this is gross"? No, because either they'd understand it, or they wouldn't be old enough for it to affect them yet. But personally, I agree with Cora. Parents and adults need to set boundaries for kids and limit what kind of romance can be seen, and what should be saved for later when they're more mature and grown up. For me, personally, if I ever have a kid, and that's a big if, I would make sure that they are shown romance and kissing sometime in their life, and if they don't understand it, I'd explain it to them. Because if they're not shown romance or kissing, then they won't understand. Like Cora said, it's, quote, a part of your child's lifelong education about loving, healthy relationships, end quote. I'm not expecting Trolls to go all out with its romance, but I do want Trolls to show romance. Show more Poppy and Branch interacting, more kisses on the cheek, kisses on the forehead, and occasionally, notice that word, occasionally, show lip kissing. Not too close to where it can get sexual, but close enough that the audience can get a strong, genuine feel for them. And kids can know that this is a healthy, loving relationship. That's really all I have to say on that issue. I look forward to Broppy in the 3rd installment. This is my live self telling everybody about further thoughts on the whole kissing issue that's going to be brought up in the review, or that's already been brought up. If you're ever telling your kids, when you're adults or whatever, for young adults, about kissing, don't tell them it's swapping spit either, because then they'll really think kissing is gross. But if you tell them that it's a way of showing affection and love and care, then they'll see kissing in a different light. And thus, they'll learn more about romance and love when they get older. And they'll keep going as they get older. And plus, you don't show them sexualized anything. Sexualized kisses, hugs, whatever. Don't do that. Don't do that until you are, much older, or they're much older, or anything like that. Or you have prior knowledge or good communication skills to be able to communicate this in a respectful manner. That's my word on the sense. Party Planner is out. We get our main moral, which is perfect. We see Poppy explaining this to future generations, which is amazing. And we cut to the credits. And that was Trolls World Tour. It's a freaking amazing movie. But I thought it was relatively underwhelming for what it was built up to be when I first watched it. While I do think it's a great movie, it's not too better than the first. All of the humor, plot, and everything was relatively standard for Trolls, and I didn't expect everyone to like this movie. There are definitely problems in this movie. No movie doesn't not have problems, but all the problems to me were minor ones that only occurred because of the one thing that I thought was botched in this movie. What were the positives? The humor is much stronger and got more laughs out of me than the first film did. They expanded on humor that's more than just glitter feces from the first movie. They had humor that had every single troll, Poppy, Branch, everyone, work off each other perfectly and enhancing the joke. The emotion was way stronger than the first movie. I felt more emotions toward Poppy and Branch, as well as Cooper and all the other trolls. I even felt for Barb. The only thing I wished was that Tresillo, the K-pop trolls, Penny Whistle, King Thrash, Chaz, and Dickory were given more screen time in the future. The only real negative about the movie is the runtime. Because the runtime is what it is, the plot goes a rapid course like a race car to the finish, and thus we're never given time to think about our emotions or let the emotions sink in. There was also a ton of deleted scenes that would have made the movie stronger and answer a few questions other Trolls fans might have in the finished project. While all of this may seem like I wasn't a fan of the first film, I still like the first film. I just prefer this movie in terms of humor, message, emotion, everything. Walt Dorn took the director's chair as well, and he better stay there for the rest of the movies. Justin Timberlake still made amazing songs, original or not, and I really love all of his singing roles in the movie. Perfect for me, especially. While Trolls World Tour isn't perfect and not quite the best movie to show to kids when it comes to prejudice and dealing with it, it does it in its own unique way, and it does it in a respectful, caring way towards children. That, to me, makes me just want to have fun. If you're not a fan of this movie or you don't like it, it's completely okay. I would never expect my criticism to change everyone's minds, but I would like people to consider my viewpoint, be an adult, and be open. Take a look, listen, or both, and figure out if this tune is for you. I definitely went on a tangent for this review, but remember, it's all because of pride and passion. And don't forget, it's not blind passion or pride. As a critic, I felt that I can give any movie a fighting chance even though I'm confident that it's really bad. As a critic, it's also my job to make sure that every movie is given the criticism it deserves, not the it's terrible or it's good treatment that most critics tend to give nowadays. The one thing I would need to make clear is that criticism can be different. I get doing criticism your own way, but criticism shouldn't entirely be objective like most people tend to do. It really bothers me when people say a movie is terrible just because, or only because, they didn't enjoy it. I completely understand that the Trolls franchise is a mixed franchise. But the fact that people show unending hate for this franchise, even though there's only 2 films, these movies aren't made with the intent of making toys. They made the film with messages for kids, and to create something that would mean something for kids and teens. Most people even went on to state that a specific movie is only made just to make money. Yes. Yes, they are. Movies are made to make money. It's a business industry. That's why movies are made every single year, regardless of if the concept is good or bad, or regardless of how the movie is seen by their trailers. Every single movie is made to make money. Entertainment doesn't come free nowadays. There are streaming services and theaters that release new content all the time. Do these streaming services and theaters show good content all the time? No, not really. That's how we got Artemis Fowl after all. That's how we got Paw Patrol Season 5 onwards after all. That's how we got Cars 2 after all. That's how we got many more bad entertainment that never tries to be creative and mean something to kids. Why? Because they talk down to kids and don't treat kids like actual kids. Trolls treats kids like actual kids by inventing something creative, colorful, and interesting while experimenting with the plot, humor, emotions, and more. By having critics like the Nostalgia Critic and many more consider these movies pandering to kids, to which they can't be interesting and engaging, I absolutely despise and hate when critics like Doug say that certain ideas made by World Tour are interesting and work well, but they're mad because it's in Trolls.
That's really fucking clever. It's like, I'm listening to this like, man, there's something here. It pisses me off that it's in Trolls.
I also hate when he compares this movie to Frozen 2.
Like Frozen 2, it's like the exact same story. Like, it may be told a little out of order, but it's like the exact same story.
What I hate about today's media is that we put our expectations way too high. When we do that, we expect every kids film to be another Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, How to Train Your Dragon, the Lego Movie, etc. When that's not how it works. What I'm saying is that it feels a lot like people aren't giving Trolls a chance, and they're saying that it's stupid garbage for the demographic of kids only. Look, Trolls should be given a chance, especially if it's only getting started. We've got Trollstopia and future movies coming soon. I mean, look at all the people that are inspired by Trolls and what DreamWorks is doing.
Trolls World Tour was an amazing movie. It was full of adventures, songs, and funny moments, and it had an important message in it. Doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. The fact that you're different doesn't mean you can't be friends with others. The world would be a boring place if we were all the same, so we should be happy that we're different. And we should celebrate it. That's why I love the movie. It proves that you can be friends with anybody you want, and nothing can stop you from that.
Okay, for starters, I love the animation in the movie because it's just so surreal and colorful. It makes you feel like you're in a whole different world. And I love the basics of the movie. I love that they get to meet all these new trolls, and it's not just about the trolls that were in the first movie. You get to meet plenty of new characters. And then about Broppy. I love the story about Broppy that goes along with this. I love that Branch, he tries so hard to tell Poppy, but he can't. Like, it's kind of a real life scenario. And then at the end, of course, he tells her. And it's the cutest thing. I love the movie. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. Wouldn't change a single thing about it.
The fact that there are people who love this franchise to death and love Justin, Anna, Walt, Ron, and many others. I've always been a fan of entertainment and what Trolls could possibly do with their ideas. I even had and still have dreams of becoming an actor and playing a Trolls character, whether it's my OC with a different design or a different Trolls character. I'd love to help the Trolls crew with ideas for new stories. I'd love to sing, especially since I was in choir, and I would love to continue to sing. I'd love to provide instrumentation for songs, especially since I was in concert band, marching band with percussion instruments. That list could go on. It's a dream of mine that I would love to work my way up towards. Anyway, Justin Timberlake, if you are watching this, I love your acting and your singing, and if possible, I'd love to work with you. Walt, if you're watching this, your directing was amazing, and I would love to work with you and help you with future stories. Trolls will always hold a special place in my heart, and the sequel will be remembered a lot. It's a tune that I will listen to anytime. I'm the party planner, and I plan it all so you have the most fun.